Hello, I'm Alida Winternheimer, your writing coach and instructor at Storyworks Fiction. Let's talk about plot and stakes and tension. If you saw the previous plot tip video, you know that Act 1 is all about introductions and setup. Act 3 is about the climax and resolution. And Act 2 is all about rising stakes and tension. So today's plot writing tip is all about Act 2, the body of your story. This is where the protagonist's journey occurs. Act 1 launches our hero's journey, and Act 3 concludes it. Act 2 is the journey. And without rising stakes and tension, you don't have a plot arc. So let's look at that. All right, when you create a plot arc, you can graph it on this handy thing, this piece of lit theory called Freytag's pyramid. All that is a graphic representation of a plot arc, and it applies to every genre through all time, no matter what you're writing, okay? If it has a plot, it needs a plot arc. So on this arc, you've got an x-axis and a y-axis. Your x-axis is story time, front cover to back cover. This is our progression through the events of the story. The y-axis is where we can graph rising stakes and tension. So when you illustrate your plot's arc on Freytag's pyramid, it's going to look like this. Now, we aren't going to get super technical and zoom in and get nitpicky about it right now, but general representation. Rising stakes and tension, you can see how as we move through story events, that time axis, the marker of stakes and tension rises up that y-axis until we reach our climax, and then things quickly fall off at the resolution. All right, what are stakes and tension? Stakes, simply put, is whatever your protagonist stands to gain or lose in each conflict along the way throughout the story, okay? Tension is what the reader feels while the protagonist goes through these challenges. So stakes and tension are separate, distinct elements, but they're best buds. They hold hands through your character's journey. So if they separate and your stakes are rising and your tension isn't, or your tension is rising and your stakes aren't, you've got a structural problem somewhere in your plot. So just remember, stakes, what your character can gain or lose; tension, what the reader feels as a result of being engaged with your character. All right. Now, if you don't have appropriately rising stakes and tension in your plot arc, instead of having a pyramid or this nice ramp or triangle, you might end up with something that looks more like a plateau. Okay? That's bad. If you've heard of the soggy middle problem, we're referring to this issue with the plateau here. You don't want that. It means you need to go fix your arc. So now that you understand a little bit more about what a plot arc is, how stakes and tension function in the arc, and how stakes and tension relate to each other, the question remains, how do I create rising stakes and tension? Well, that depends. Don't you hate it when people say that? It depends on the story you're telling and the demands the plot, character, and setting are making on each other, because they only function in relation to one another. But I'm going to give you the keys to this particular craft door. Key to raising stakes is the question, what does my protagonist stand to gain or lose? Key to raising tension is the question, is my reader sufficiently invested in my protagonist? Okay, both of those questions have a right and a wrong answer, and you'd better get the right answer or revise your plot. As your protagonist advances on her journey through Act 2, she needs to face increasingly difficult challenges with increasingly higher stakes, i.e., more to gain or lose as a result of facing this challenge. Keep in mind, this applies to all stories, not just action-adventure stories. Your protagonist might risk a relationship or spiritual knowledge or self-discovery or any matter of stakes on her journey. We typically talk about plot in terms of easily tangible story elements like slaying the dragon and rescuing the princess. Now, why does the dragon have to die? And who says the princess needs rescuing anyway? Well, the fundamentals apply to internally driven, subtle plot arcs, as well as those externally driven, big, exploding plot arcs. Okay? Suppose your hero is facing death. Now, we know the stakes are appropriately high for this stage of your plot arc. The hero's got plenty to lose, and depending on your story, it's likely game over for the hero and the reader. Right? Hero dies, where's the story? So, very high stakes. But if your reader has lost interest or faith in your hero, the tension the reader feels will not be commensurate with the stakes you've created for your protagonist. And that's a problem to remedy immediately. Today we've covered the basic structure of plot arc and the role of stakes and tension in shaping Act 2. We've also distinguished stakes and tension from each other and illustrated how they must rise together, right, like best friends holding hands, for your novel to work. If you want a deep exploration of plot and various tools that you can use to develop your plot stories or your story's plots, I've got a plot masterclass for you. It's for writers at all stages of the writing career, from absolute beginners to highly experienced. Plot, You Are the Master of Your Story, is an 8-week live class, and it starts soon. So go to storyworksfiction.com or use the link below to get all the information you need. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the classroom.